Hey guys, Dino here, and I'm back with Portal 2 Part 8. So, last time we left off, I had briefly mentioned that this new area of the game was a little bit different than the first. Mainly the blue goo versus the boxes and the lasers. I think this area is a little bit deceptively simple. The first kind of puzzles, I don't want to say they're necessarily hard, but they seem to have more facets to them. There was more going on. I think the hardest part of figuring out these new puzzles that are coming up, all the blue stuff, was sometimes just figuring out where I'm supposed to go. Once you can figure that out, it's really not that difficult. But sometimes it's, like I said, almost deceptively simple. There's an exit sign in one room, and actually you're supposed to go back to another room. The hardest part of that puzzle was simply just figuring out which room to go to, and once you did that, it's no problem. Anybody can figure it out after that. So, yeah, a little mixed on these. I think there's, it's fun, it's something different. But anyway. So I had a few people ask about playing with subs and Xbox, things like that. So far, one of the best ways I've found to play with subs, actually hasn't even been my own subs, it's been XCal subs. And simply we'll go into a room and send out a tweet, basically. He'll send out a tweet, and whoever responds to it first, we end up playing with. So that seems to be the most effective method of getting it done. Yeah, I think that's what I would ultimately like to do. My Twitter list is nowhere near as full as his is, so I think it'll be a while before that happens. I mean, I haven't even started releasing console vids yet, but I did just get my PVR hooked up yesterday, so I'm really excited. I'm just going to start hammering those out tonight, and might get one out later tonight, but I think tomorrow I should probably put out my first console PVR vid, so we'll see how that goes. Got it hooked up pretty easy. I thought it would actually be a little bit more complicated than it was. I mean, there are a hell of a lot of wires, but it really wasn't too bad. I think getting a good wireless card and hooking that up is probably more complicated than setting up the PVR, so if that gives you any idea. Let's see, I always like to look to the comments to find out where you guys are at with what you're thinking as far as the commentaries, as far as video games, and I love hearing you guys' thoughts when I talk about things, whether or not I even ask for them. It's always nice to hear that feedback. So somebody mentioned something about Halo Reach. I don't really know anything about Halo Reach. As I'm sure most of you guys know, my console experience, as I've said, is pretty limited, especially, well, I shouldn't say especially the last few years, for a long time. So I've never played Halo Reach, but I think the point that they were trying to make is that the game has been dumbed down to such an extent that they've started to lose the player base. And I think that's a good point. I don't know that that's necessarily true because I don't know anything about the game. But I think that ultimately the strategy of dumbing things down and catering to the lowest common denominator can only take you so far. And I think, on one hand, it's a great tool, like we've talked about, to get a lot of people attracted to video games, otherwise wouldn't want anything to do with them. As someone who's played video games growing up throughout the years and started off playing all the very Twitch-based FPS shooters that were all straight up, TDM. Well, not even TDM. I mean, most weren't even TDM. It was just simply free-for-alls was the most popular. Quake 2, which was actually a lot of fun. There really wasn't a lot you could do if somebody was better than you. So I think people tend to get discouraged pretty quickly, and they don't want anything to do with it. I don't necessarily think the way to deal with that is to lower the skill potential down to nothing so that everybody is good, which is, I feel like, kind of what's happened. But, at the same time, maybe at least early on that style of gaming, maybe was inevitable, that it just wouldn't be able to carry on as a result of, there just not being a lot of people in gaming at that time, whatever it was, 5-10 years ago. So, having people with skills just crush people that didn't isn't probably the best way. I don't know what the hell happened there with that cube. It hit the wall and disintegrated. You know, it turns out you don't even need to jump up there anyway. Yeah, I guess maybe that's not the best way to attract, you know, new people to your audience by, you know, massacring them and, you know, telling them to get lost and stuff it, and they'll never be as good as you. I guess probably doesn't work wonders for building up a large player base. So, so yeah, back to my original point. So, I would like to think that ultimately, the whole, like I said, catering to the lowest common denominator will come to a head eventually, and people will get sick and tired of not knowing who's good and who's bad, or realizing that if everybody has the potential to be great, being great really doesn't mean anything. You know, I think consistency counts for everything, and if you can't consistently put off the same performance again and again and again, like, well, yeah, that doesn't mean anything. You know, imagine, you know, imagine any of you guys' favorite sports, whatever, football, baseball, basketball, soccer. I mean, how many of your favorite athletes out there have a great game, you know, once every 25 games? I mean, what would you start calling them, like, the best player if they had, you know, in a whatever, just say a 50-game season, if they had 3 great games out of 50 games and the rest were mediocre to ass, would you call them a great player? No. It's no different in video games. So, anyway, like I said, I think consistency counts for a lot, but the games that are out there right now, I think, are there to attract new people, and are not necessarily the easiest games to have a consistent performance in. Like I said, for a variety of reasons. In COD, you know, any of the weapons just kill very fast. You know, instant respawn servers. You know, the difficulties. Well, I can't remember. Hold on, real quick. I think I ended up hopping down this. I'm just not sure what to do at this point. And you know, God forbid I deviate from talking about games for the moment to go back to Portal 2. So this puzzle was the most difficult part, like I talked about before. This puzzle takes part in 2 different rooms, and maybe I'm a moron for just not looking at these lines connecting each other. I probably should have done that. I'm a little impatient, and I just didn't do it. So I'm not really sure where to go. There's this ledge up top here that I've looked at a few times, and I'm wondering if I need to get up there somehow, but I can't figure it out. So then I'm wondering if I need to somehow you know, I don't know what the fuck that means. So I'm wondering if I need to throw myself down this hole, and I don't know. But I think I actually throw myself down the hole and ended up leaving it in. Yeah, I wasn't sure what was down there. It ended up working out because I spawned back in basically and came over here and just was fucking around, stepped on this block, and I think I heard something or saw it out of the corner of my eye. Realized it was turning that. Note to self, look at the lines that connect shit. One of the things that I think is really important to make yourself better at anything, it's one of the things I'm slowly starting to, I guess, learn all over again, because I've forgotten. I just haven't played games in a long time. Is essentially not to just get stuck, and I've said this before, not to get stuck doing the same thing again and again. Like, look for another fucking solution. Just because you feel like it has to be this thing or is this thing doesn't necessarily mean that it is. And I think the first thing you should do is probably run through and try every possibility there is. If that doesn't work, it's always possible you miss something, overlook something. You know what I mean? Like that block disappearing the way that it did was really odd. Someone could easily have been like, oh, you can't take it off that ledge, and just said, fuck that strategy. So it wasn't until you went back over it again and saw that it was just a result of it hitting the wall or something as you hopped off it. That's why it's disintegrated. So anyway, just learning those lessons, I think, can help make everybody, including myself, much, much, much better and faster. So someone else left a good comment that money basically equates to try hard pants, equates to skill. And, you know, I don't know, I have to agree. You have all these competing factors as to what makes people good or what makes people not so good. And one of them is definitely, you know, the flip side to having more players available you know, and everybody working off of everybody else's skill levels, is having basically more ding-dongs involved. You don't necessarily guarantee that you have, you know, a greater range of people that are going out there to break balls and stomp face. So I think in general, yeah, if somebody's willing to spend $1,000 on a gaming rig versus a couple hundred, I think you're probably more likely to get somebody who, you know, is going to try hard if they spend more money. So it's a good point. That being said, still really sad that you have to spend so much more money to game on a PC than you do a console. Although I think some of that is still an illusion and definitely falling away as time goes on. You know, you can go to any of your favorite computer building sites and get a pretty nice new computer rig for about 500 bucks. That'll last you, I mean, it'll last a good 2 to 4 years. And you're not going to be playing games at high res after, you know, 2 or 3 years or anything like that. You'll be playing them on medium graphics. But like when these consoles came out, I mean, they were really, really expensive, and the games are ridiculously expensive. The games are still, what, like $69 or something? That's just silly. I don't think I've bought a new console game since the new consoles have been out. I've only bought used, so I'm actually not entirely sure. I think it's $69 usually, which is retard expensive. So, yeah, they definitely take lots of money. The difference, though, is a console. I mean, look, they've been using them for almost the last 10 years now, and there's no way you could use a computer for 10 years. You could get away with 4 or 5, something like that. But, you know, I built my computer brand new about 4 years ago now, top of the line, and it's definitely already starting to date and show signs of wear. So, let's see. Someone else mentioned something about the younger gamers, and, you know, they're the ones that are you know, I guess sort of ruining things, and I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, you know, especially because gaming's in a really weird place as far as, you know, I started playing games when I was like, what, 4 years old, 3 years old, and so I've obviously been there and done that, and I think the newer, younger players keep things exciting and fresh, and that's always fun, makes things interesting. There's nothing more enjoyable than watching somebody come out who has this fresh outlook on something, who's doing things you've never even thought of before, and I think that tends to be much more likely with the younger gamers. So, you know, like I said, I've been away from it for a few years, and probably as a result of that, I'm making a lot of bonehead mistakes, such as, you know, trying to do the same thing again, even when I saw it wasn't working. And I think, I don't know if they're less, or I would imagine they're less likely to do that. So I think it can be fun to play with those guys. You know, they're not all ding-dongs out there going berserk. So, you know, I think it's fun, and I think, you know, the younger players, you know, they can do things that are annoying, and so can the older players. I have to say that I think my most unpleasant experiences actually come from the older players that are more like, you know, you guys should all be respectful, and you can't say anything to anyone that might offend feelings, and I don't think that's any fun either. I just feel like I can't have fun when I play video games if I play with somebody who talks like that and thinks like that. So, you know, they all have their ups and downs, but that's all I guess I wanted to say. As far as the randoms go too, like the random, I guess I'm kind of equating that to the younger gamers. Pulling people in off of subs, or whether it's playing with the younger gamers, I think it just brings in this level of excitement that otherwise might not even be there. We actually got a couple guys in Zombies last night who were competent players, and as a result of that, like, we had to quit at level 30 because Zombies levels started taking too long, and it's just no fun. Like, the fun part, yeah, I don't know, I feel like I'm kind of eating my own words here. Fun is, you know, going in, part of me equates fun as to going in and dominating and smashing and proving that, you know, you are better than everybody else. And I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, like, that feels great. Until I get to that point, you know, that's largely all I'm concerned with. But that being said, like, once you get there, well, at least in a game like Zombies, not all games are the same, so I guess we'll just be talking about Zombies for the moment. Like, there's, you know, you've mastered it, and there's no benefit to really just keep going and proving that you're the best, and you're look how great you are, or whatever, like you've mastered this game, like what's the point in going on? I mean, after level 30, they do spawn in really fast, and I'll talk more about zombies when it gets to that, but essentially, you know, if you're that good that there's no challenge, it's not fun anymore, so it makes sense. And to go back in time a little bit here, when we played Battlefield 42 and Battlefield Vietnam, any of the times that we did really well, and especially in BF Vietnam when we were, you know, back-to-back undefeated, it wasn't fun at all. We wanted, you know, good competition, and we wanted to see fresh and new takes on the gaming perspective. And when that's not there, it felt very tedious. I remember always looking forward to, you know, pubbing with friends and going into, you know, yeah, public servers and, you know, basically stomping noobs. Unfortunately, that's what seemed like it was the most fun. What didn't seem like fun was when you were dominating somebody and you knew that they had no chance to win. They knew that they had no chance to win, and that just gets old, you know, big deal. So real quick, what I'm trying to do here, I don't know, I had some grand idea in mind where I launch it in one, and as it's in the air and it comes back down, I swap out the other portal or whatever and launch it somewhere else. I guess apparently I just love to make things more complicated than they have to be. So this game in no way, shape, or form requires you to do anything as complex as that. I kind of wish it did sometimes, but anyway. So yeah, the randoms, like I said, a lot of fun, and that's a lot of good reason to want to play with the subs. The other downside, and this is probably get into it more in the next round, is, well, there's two things. If you want to play video games, if you want to put on the try-hard pants and go out there and whip ass and take names, it puts you in an odd situation because, you know, if you're finding yourself demoralizing everyone, that's not any fun. But at the same time, you know, you may not want to go out there and, you know, when you're playing BF42 or BFV competitively, especially when it comes time to like the playoffs and stuff like that, like it's nerdy as hell, but you know, you're scrimmaging or whatever other teams, you know, several times a day, and this isn't including like any of your own practice stuff or anything like that. This is just, you know, it's basics. The more you can scrim, the more you can practice, the more strategy you can come up with, the better you're going to do. And it's a lot of work, and I don't necessarily know if it's worth all that work. So that's, anyway, you just put yourself in that situation. You want other people to play with it are good, but you don't necessarily want to put in the time to play with them. It's kind of weird. But I'll explain more about it next time, so hope you guys enjoyed this section, and look for console stuff coming soon. Otherwise, Portal 9 coming at you tomorrow.